practicality. And you're muted, Ben.
The thing I do not bring is the remembering to hit record.
Well,
So
and the reason why I remembered the recording is that what I just said I thought was actually really clever, and I wanted to remember it because otherwise. So
do you want to so we're just doing introductions, and
yeah.
unfortunately Barbara and Becca, we didn't record them. But Roland, do you want to at least capture your clever thing?
Well, now see the thing with saying clever things is that I rarely remember what I just said, but it's
You
something
you
it,
said economic spirituality.
to right size the ego of the brain so that it recognizes that it's part of the whole. Thank you. Yes,
Mhm.
that's it. Okay. Now I feel satisfied. To Ben.
Awesome. You know, it's I had a little epiphany as we were going around because um, I was thinking, I too, this is not my favorite thing to do. And then I realized I actually have, I like tracking things and I like spreadsheets and I like figuring how to balance things. I just have a lot of trauma around finance, and it's just how I was raised. And so I just have anything approaching accounting, my heart starts to pitter pat. And
Mm.
but at this, I like this idea of kind of reclaiming it. I recognize the the need, no matter what, as we move forward, there's still some we need to actually, it's one of the things that we're dealing with right now is how do we balance the energy flow, which is, ultimately what I think economics should be about. Is, how do we make sure things are moving where they need to, and that's going to require some sort of accounting. And I'm actually kind of excited to figure out how that can work. Like I'm excited to put together our articles of incorporation and be creative about how do you encode a non-hierarchical unequal power system. And that experiment. So yeah, I think that actually feels big to me. It's not that I don't like it. I've got just a little wounding around it. And I do I'm good at math and good with spreadsheets. You know, I have the basic skills that are necessary, and I'm good at, I like to think I'm good at, sort of balancing the flow of things. So yeah, this should be a guild that I feel really comfortable in, and so apologies when my trauma acts up, and I'm doing everything in my power to heal my own trauma. So um, anyhow, so that's awesome. I am really sorry that we didn't record your your intros just because it would be nice for Cam and well, Heather. I think Heather kind of knows.
Can we actually just do it again? Would you if Barbara and Becca feel comfortable with that?
Or a quick version,
Yeah.
just to say hi. Yeah, why don't we do that? Barbara, back to you.
Yeah, the quick version is I'm sitting in this guild space right now because I am uh, driven. I am absolutely driven for survival. Like make this work the way that it can work the best, and it being the project as a whole. And to me, the survival in the world as it is equates to the legal spaces and the financial spaces. And I can bring some skills around the financial and some perspectives around the legal. And then the another part of that is that I have a great deal of curiosity and excitement about the potential of doing that in different ways, in new ways, in innovative ways, in hacking the systems and getting away with it and still having survival and play and joy. Over to you, Becca.
I think I said uh, that I appreciate the work on this level, even though I don't love it, because it's what is needed for everything else to happen. And I'm motivated to contribute what I can do from a distance, which I'm in Madison, Wisconsin. And I'm interested because I love Ben and have known Ben for many years, and love Roland and love getting to know new people, and also have a little bit of the plan B idea that we've talked about sometimes, about like, is this a escape from the US to Canada backup plan, which is highly unlikely given my family situation that I would ever do it. But I'm motivated to be part of this project, partly out of exploring that kind of thing, and as a potential investor.
All
Back to Roland.
right.
Well, we only heard a little bit of what
Oh,
Roland
right.
said.
Yeah.
The
Okay, Roland.
the most brilliant part, but
Well, okay, so what did I say? I think I said I also am not naturally drawn to this kind of thing, and actually I have a mild allergy to acronyms and finances and money. The way that the way money works doesn't make any sense to me. And but I think I am able to bring a slightly off-kilter perspective that helps to re um, reevaluate the way that we think about things there. Thank you.
Thank you all, and apologies for having forgotten to hit record to make us have to go through that a second time, even though it's interesting, you know, how people paraphrase and what you hear the first time and what you hear the second time. So somehow I just muted myself by accident. What I was trying to do was put the link to the Google Doc in the chat, and I will also share screen so that we can be going over the driver statement. We use sociocracy as our organizing framework, and one of the core kind of principles is that we're calling them guilds. The circles are basically constituted by a driver statement, which lays out that we're delegating responsibility from the whole into subsections where people can really focus on different skills and different aspects of the organism that's important. Actually, I'm gonna, just because I'm still really quite proud of this. Excuse me. As part of our earlier sessions, really the kind of the culmination was thinking through the organs of the organism and thinking of the Lifeboat Academy as a living thing in an environment, and thinking of the functions that need to go on for this thing to take life and fulfill its role in the environment. And that's where we came up with our guilds. So we've got heart work and philosophy, principles and governance, finance and legal, the farm, food and housing, and outreach. And they all have different functions, but of course they're all interconnected, all interdependent. And so the idea with the driver statement is it kind of lays out so we know who's doing what, and we also know who to talk to if where we overlap. So we think about the different guilds as being Venn diagrams. It's not a silo. There's not like some clear, pure boundary between them, but there are kind of key focus areas. So we just want to go over the driver statement to, first of all, see if it's clear, if there's any questions, anything that needs to get clarified. And then we'll spend some time talking about like how do we want to then move forward with things. So the function, like Roland was saying, we're thinking organically of this being the brains of the organization, especially the frontal cortex. You know, it's really the making plans and kind of navigating in the environment. And so some of the main responsibilities then are finance, fundraising, legal interface with things, and the bookkeeping, paying the bills side of things. And long-term goals, to be mortgage free, to have the property owned free and clear by shareholders, to have a positive cash flow. And right now that's not quantified in any way. And 6 farmers with full fair share equity. And that's part of the model of a kind of a sweat equity relationship with workers and land. And then in terms of short-term goals, the biggest issue right now is securing the social mortgage and the legal ownership of the property. And that involves establishing the legal entity and likewise making sure that there are pathways for investors to invest. So it's fairly clear, straightforward, and there has been work done in all of these areas already, so it's not starting from ground zero. And I'll just go over also the resources. Basically, a lot of these are financial or electronic resources. So a CRM system that we have developed and populated. So we have a lot of background information about people who are interested, potential investors. We have a Stripe payment system. So we actually have a way of receiving money, and a crowdfunder set up with fundraiser. We also have a lot of sort of promotional materials, so slideshows and print materials. And we have a draft of the Articles of Incorporation and a business plan prospectus. This is not just because we are likely to tread into the waters of the Securities Commission. This is not a legal prospectus at this point, but it is based on the outline of a prospectus. So it should have, it should be the starting point for what we need to be able to complete those responsibilities. And then in terms of interdependencies, this guild has probably the most, but also the easiest in some sense, because there will be obviously interface between what we're doing here in this guild and any kind of capital improvements or expenditures of any kind that other guilds need. So we'll want to make sure that whatever is getting spent, we know where it's coming from. And likewise with income, I am assuming that, basically all the income will flow through this guild. So no matter if it's earned on workshops or if it's earned on the farm or if it's earned from guests or donations, that it would still flow through here just for, kind of accounting purposes. So that's it. Let's do once around just to see if there are questions or, sort of general questions or thoughts or anything like that before we get into kind of gathering considerations around priorities. So Barbara, over to you.
I'll pass. I have no comment or no question.
I think I have a sort of conceptual question about why this is the head rather than governance being the head, but I'm not too worried about that. Yeah, it's nice to see it all laid out neatly that way. And I think I have questions that go into the considerations part probably, so I'll wait for that.
Cool. Yeah, I think part of the reason why the head is, oh, sorry, I jumped over you, Roland. Oh, back to you, Roland.
So for dedicated resources, would it make sense to there's we've got fundraiser and Stripe payment system and fresh sales, but what about the bank? We've got an account.
Kind of.
We also have insurance.
Yeah.
That would probably fall under this purview.
I'm not sure if that's a resource or a responsibility. think that may be more responsibility.
Okay.
Yeah, and just a clarification, the bank account is actually in the name of Highgrove because there is no legal entity for the Lifeboat Academy. But that would be, we've been using it as, you know, sort of the de facto bank account, and it would be easy to, I'm assuming that we can transfer, you know, from the one entity to the other. So credit card, and although we may not want to transfer our credit card, but the bank account and the credit card for the farm are also, you're right, dedicated resources. Okay, well then, the main goal, so just the chores and the projects and the badges are not anything that we need to fill out tonight. And really all we're trying to do at this point is to come up with this section of the driver statement to describe our 2024 action plan. It's meant to be a North Star kind of action plan, so it doesn't need to be highly detailed. And we do fractal planning, so we break everything down into, you know, seasonal actual work plans. And the goal we want to come out of this weekend charrette with a seasonal plan for each of the guilds. But so the high level action plan is really just so that we're able to coordinate at that level. And as a way of moving towards that, we're going to gather considerations. And that also means that it'll be a record of our conversation, and so that anybody who's not here can catch up. And then also it's a location for people who aren't here to add comments. So, and the way we do gathering considerations, our process is we do rounds. We go around as many times as we need to get everything out. But we limit ourselves to one consideration per round per person, so that we have a chance to weave things together, and it's not just one person doing like a laundry list. And anything is good. So questions, concerns, ideas, hopes, fears, things to keep in mind. It's all good, and we'd let the circle do its work. And so we can build on each other's ideas, but there's no crosstalk. So I think, is the process clear enough?
I have a question.
Okay.
Is there any update that you want to give us before, like, since the last, or?
I mean, the only update is we haven't reconnected with Joey. So that's kind of been paused, and we've been back and forth with Stephanie. We do have an extension. We have what we're hoping is our final extension. And we still have every reason to believe that Joey would be willing to help us in the ways that he offered to help us before the holidays. We just haven't been able. And to be fair, we haven't really been pursuing the connection with Joey as strongly because we've been busy with all this other stuff. So, and I guess actually, Barbara, I don't know if you know that where things stand now is Stephanie, the current owner, has told us that she is strongly supportive of this project and she wants to make it happen. And she's already been very generous with allowing us a lot of time. And and she's also expressed an interest to get more involved in making the deal happen. And we met with Joey Hussein before the holidays. And his family is the Hussein Foundation. And then they each also are philanthropic on their own. And he's recently moved to Pender and wants to get more involved in the community. And also all of the work that the Family Foundation does. And it sounds like, I think all of his siblings, and I'm not sure if his parents are still around or involved, but they, as a family, they've decided that the environment and dealing with climate is a priority for them. And he's also worked on, he has his own projects that he's working on that are kind of regenerative farming oriented. So we found him to be really knowledgeable and supportive. So anyhow, that's we're hoping that we have the actors who need to be there, and now it's a question of doing the deal, figuring out what works. And Becca also has been in communication with multiple lawyers and consultants around the legal structure. And we have a draft of the Articles of Incorporation, and we're just waiting to, say go to actually incorporate. And part of that is we want to bounce what we're doing off of Joey and get his feedback to see how that might affect potential investors from his perspective. So that's a long update. I think that's enough. Okay. So then on to considerations. Over to Barbara.
Thanks for that update. I'm new at this and I'm learning what's an update, what's a driver, what's a consideration, what's the diff. So that was super useful to me. So I will say to start that consideration present for me is balance forward, like where things are at right now in terms of a budget. So that might be two things. And if it is, I would put budget first. That includes the balance forward, like what's the status of the initiatives accounts, and what do we got to work with, and what do we think we want to do. And I know that there's been some work done on that. It's a consideration for me. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay. I think the thing I was thinking of was the question of following up with the lawyers that I was talking with, and whether we want to do that or not. Feels, is that waiting until after we talk to Joey, or or are we, do you guys not want to do that? And yeah, so I'd like to discuss that as in whatever time frame makes sense to you.
Roland, over to you.
I don't have any considerations at the moment, so I'm going to pass.
I can, the balance forward is, the question is how red is the balance forward? We are right now, we're really, Roland and I have just been, we've been self-funding this pretty much, with some donations here and there. And so we're really looking to the investment coming in as, a way of providing us with the budget. And we do have some, we've gotten numbers in terms of expected income for different things which are based on previous experience. So we have, which I will say, all of these numbers, we have a budget developed for costs for some of the infrastructure development that we have in mind. This was all before the inflation hit hard. So those numbers probably need to be significantly revised. And the other thing too is I put the budget together myself on what's the cheapest we can get away with. And one of the things I'm sort of realizing is that, especially as we're talking to potential deep pocket investors, that was a really bad way of doing it. And I think it has its use, but I think we also should do a healthy budget. Like, what do we think we really need to? We'll come back. So I'm just going to answer that is my update on the balance forward in the budget, is there's something to start with, but it really needs that should be on our work list. Probably developing a proper budget moving forward. Oh, and actually, in terms of I'm not sure if Becca, we may have lost you. I don't know whether you can hear or not, but you're frozen on my screen. So maybe I'll wait till Becca comes back before talking about the lawyer stuff. Oh, Becca's back. For myself, for the lawyer question, I think we should move forward. It's just a question. I have the same question. I think it's, I definitely think let's move forward. And what do we need to know? What do we need to know before we're talking to the lawyers? You know, do we need to have some feedback from Joey on, you know, his perspective? So I'm definitely interested. I think we're at that time. We just need to form the entity, and we just need to figure out what's the right sequence of, you know, making that happen. So back over to you, Barbara.
Thanks for the additional info and context as I come up to speed with this. Consideration present with me is around a strategy, I guess. Maybe what's the best strategy for circling back to Joey and Stephanie? But maybe, yeah, I don't know either or both. And if that's weighted in any way. What's the best strategy for circling back to those major, whatever they are, partners, stakeholders, potentials, potentialities. Becca.
Yeah, I mean, my memory of what the lawyers were offering was not just to help us incorporate once we had decided what structure we wanted to be, but to help us figure out what structure we want to be.
Hmm.
And so that just feels a little different than how I think I heard you framing it, the question, Ben. And obviously, the more of their time, the less sure we are, the more of their time will be involved and the more we'll have to pay them. And so there's considerations there, but it feels like at one point, obviously this is too late for this to happen, but at one point I was even imagining like maybe they would be at the charrette and, you know, like maybe that's where we're going to hash this all out and figure it all out. And so if not there, then what should the process be? Over to Roland.
I think one consideration is the Joey connection is an exciting one because we've been looking for somebody with deep pockets to show interest, and should we be putting all of our energy in pursuing Joey or going back to I feel like we may have not been pursuing other funding partners as much as we were before, or keeping that at least in front of mind. So I'm trying, I don't know if you can condense that into something, you know, it's like I guess it's kind of not putting all of our eggs in the Joey basket.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And even I feel like we may have learned stuff. At the very least, we've learned things about connecting with Joey that can be useful in continuing to look for other, no matter what happens with Joey, we've learned things that will help us.
I think, is it over to me?
Yeah.
You know, my take on what happened was we still are in conversation with people who are more modest potential investors and who are generally people who want to be investors, right? Like they want to put money in and keep their money in. They want to support the project. But we were just discovering, my takeaway was it's nearly impossible for us to find a cast of investors who can complete a cash deal, who will all have money available at the same time. And, you know, like, it was just not plausible to figure out how to close the deal, putting together the investors that we had access to. And so that's why we wanted a social mortgage or a few social mortgages who could make up the difference. And the only person that we've had any access to so far has been Joey, who might be in that, who might have access to people in that category. So I never switched strategies, and I haven't put all my eggs in the Joey basket. What I have put in that basket is Joey's the first person that we've talked to who actually knows what these people are looking for, how they think, where they are, you know. So I think that, you know, for me, I've been most excited about the fact that Joey seemed really willing to help shape, you know, how we do a pitch. And it sounded like he was actually willing to, you know, introduce us to people, kind of connect us to people who might be willing to invest in something like this. So I don't think, I agree. I don't think we want to put all our eggs in the Joey basket, but I do think that he's expressed a willingness to help, and I want to take him up on that, you know, on that help. So, but it does make me think that, you know, I think one of the other things that we need to do, it's also having resources available. And if we have some more energy in the guild, then, you know, connecting back with people who've expressed some interest in investing, not just the social mortgage, you know. So it's kind of, I'm going to add an iteration on Barbara's what's the best strategy for circling back with Joey and Stephanie, and what's the best strategy for circling back with other potential investors. And, you know, and there's, you know, some people we've kind of lost contact with, really. And some of it, I know it's kind of life circumstances that we've lost contact, but, you know, we can reclaim or reconnect, and it'd be worth doing that. So over to you, Barbara.
Just a process check here. I have a hard stop at 5 myself. I have another commitment. I'll be jumping out for that.
We do too.
Oh, okay. For now, this is good for me, and I don't have any further considerations to contribute.
I'm curious to learn more about what Barbara mentioned as legal background or something. What if there's something to summarize that would be useful.
Can I
Totally.
jump in?
Sure.
Is
Yeah,
that a question to me?
sounds like it.
Oh, just from an organizational, like a sort of a, or yeah, from an organizational big picture perspective, I have awareness of what kinds of legal things need to be paid attention to. I don't have any legal experience. I'm not in any way a legal professional. But operationally speaking, I've got a good idea of where those things can jump out and bite you. That's what I meant by perspective. Perspective was kind of a shorthand for that.
Thank you. I think it's Roland's turn.
I have no further considerations to add. Over to Ben.
I just glanced up and I added, in terms of our badges, one of the things we have talked about is needing a closer. And I was thinking about also, as we're moving forward, people who can pitch, who can offer up what it is, why people might want to invest, and if we could, how we can distribute that a little bit more. So how do we find or develop a closer, and develop people who can pitch? So over to Barbara.
Yeah, I find myself moving towards summarizing and pulling into an action, high level action plan, what we've just been talking about. And I just made one note, and I was just thinking about adding another. So something about healthy budget framework and draft for moving forward, and also clarity. Okay, I've just been remembering when I was trying to get my head inside what a social mortgage is, and you guys gave me some time, and we had some conversation about that before the end of the year, and I'm still not super clear. So I'm still motivated to get clear descriptions that can be like pushed out, and because I'm not clear, I'm not comfortable talking about it with potential investors. So I don't know if that's just a Barbara thing or if it's a more of a global thing that it would be a useful resource for us to have those things. And I know that there was the one pager that maybe drifted towards 2 that we were looking at. It didn't get at the guts of it for me. Like I wanted to and I guess that's why that's another reason why I'm on this, in this circle, in this guild. I almost said committee. Is to get into the entrails, the financial stuff. So I just moved my mouth and didn't really say anything. I apologize. I'm done moving my mouth.
Don't apologize. I also find the social mortgage thing not clear enough to move forward with. And one of the considerations about it, or about what role my money could play, that I've brought up before that we still don't have any resolution about, is that if it seems like it's much simpler coming from the US for it to be a loan, but it needs to be like a minimum amount of interest paid in order for it to be considered a loan, and rather than a gift, according to the US government. And I don't know if that's social mortgage money or if that's some other kind of loan, but in any case, it feels like it's a consideration that we need to figure out. Over to Roland.
Well, really interesting, and um, I was thinking of the conversations that we've had in trying to figure out how to communicate to other people. And you've, so I'm going to propose something. Since you've both indicated that things are not clear, would it make sense for the two of you to get together and, um, I don't know, maybe be able to, so that you can communicate, like, would it make sense to take the materials that we have already and um, summarize or rewrite to describe how you're understanding it, and then having a discussion about it, because this is something that comes up, not specifically about the social mortgage, and then it's sort of like, okay, well, we've how do we communicate more if we feel like we've communicated everything, you know? So what are the questions? Where are things unclear? And instead of asking questions, maybe trying to answer them. And then that might be a different way of approaching the conversation. And it may be really helpful actually to be able to flesh it out, especially if you're coming from a perspective of what you need to know to feel comfortable for yourselves, or to be able to talk about it with other people. So there's a proposal on a different way of approaching trying to get around, trying to get
Mhm.
clear on this. So over to Ben.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. And also, this is, frankly, I think it's more of a conversation to have with Joey, because, you know, he's the kind of person that could be a social mortgage holder. And I don't know how much we described, but I think there's 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 two dangers here. One is some of the assumptions that we make about how money has to work. And which, you know, this see earlier part of this conversation, a lot of the problems we're having right now are because of how the money system works. And one of those is the idea that you automatically owe money over time to hold money. Like an investment must produce a certain amount of return. And that is something that forces commodification of land. So we're trying to find a way of extracting ourselves from that. And that's also where, when we say social mortgage, it's not actually a mortgage. What it is an investment. They're basically buying all of the shares of the company that are not otherwise bought. And they are agreeing to sell them back at a predetermined price over 10 years. And if anything goes wrong, they have collateral, the material assets of the project, which is primarily the land and the structures on it, as their collateral. So and in that case, they are like any investor, where anybody who's bought shares would be made whole if the project goes under by selling the property and dividing up the money. So it's not a mortgage, it's actually an investment, but it's an investment with the expectation that it would get paid back, you'd get bought out over time. And it is a way of getting around exactly the laws that you're talking about, which require interest to be paid on a loan no matter what. So anyhow, but I agree with Roland that it's, at this point, we've tried to encapsulate it as clearly as we can and answer the questions that have come up as clearly as we can. And so, yeah, it's probably more helpful if, you know, if you can come back to us with what about if we phrased it this way? And then would that make it, you know, is that in keeping with the spirit of it? Anyhow, it also is very close to 5, and we are going to switch to the next guild. But we still have a couple minutes, and in terms of our kind of action plan going forward, last night we determined also that this is a living document. We all have access to it, so we can also be doing some work on it between now and the weekend. But if there's anything else that we want to capture in terms of the action plan for 24, now, and I think Barbara, you made a great start. I would add, I think, the other thing is to finalize the legal entity, to finalize and incorporate whatever that looks like. And I kind of feel almost like the action plan is sort of given in the short-term goals. It's kind of, I don't know that we're really adding anything to that, but I'm blathering. So over to you, Barbara.
Yeah, okay, super fast. The resources and descriptions that exist now are super clear to the level that they go. There's a deeper level of understanding that people who have money and want to put it in are going to ask. I don't know those questions. I'm totally available to unpack that. I would love to work with whoever wants to do that, to take it down below the skin a little bit and get at that. What you just said about what social mortgages are, Ben, is excellent. Like that, to me, that was a frame that currently isn't represented that really helps. So there's, I think that's part of our project plan. Our annual plan is to do that work. I'm 100%, 150, 500% available to participate in that aspect of it. Would love to. Thank you. Over to you, Becca.
Yes, I agree that I think the way I view it, the task as translating the high level sort of radical reclaiming of the commons goals into how will this work in the short immediate term in terms of existing types of financial instruments, and that I think we need like professional help in figuring that out. And my capacity is unfortunately more like 2% rather than 500%. So that is a consideration, because I'm just taking on a whole bunch of stuff, and somebody who was spearheading one of my other committees got sick. And anyway, so I'm feeling like I'm not going to be able to be at the whole weekend, so I'm feeling constrained about that. Over to Roland.
Yeah, thanks everyone. I'm good. Over to Ben.
Yeah, and I want to learn how to grant absolution to anyone who is overbooked or temporarily incapacitated. So, like all that stuff. We're all doing. I am grateful for any and all help that we get, and we're all doing the best we can, and we'll figure this out. So with that, we are going to transition to the Heart Work and Philosophy Guild. And so by Barbara. And
I think I'm going to log out and log back in from my computer, because this phone thing is a pain in the ass.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Good to meet you, Barbara.
See you, Barbara.
Look forward to next.
Hello. And
Hello.
Becca is going to be, Becca was just on with us for the finance. And
Do you want to stop the recording?
Oh, yes.
Then start a new one?
Yes.
Turning into the